This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert met for the second time this month in West Jerusalem. Today's meeting was held to prepare for the International Peace Conference, which is scheduled to take place next month. An Israeli official said that Olmert had assured Abbas that Israel does not want to create a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Israel recently decided to gradually cut fuel, power and food supplies in Gaza. Meanwhile, two members from the Jerusalem Brigade, the military wing of the Islamic Jihad, were martyred during an Israeli raid that was launched in Shuja'iyya in eastern Gaza. A member from Al-Qassam Brigade was martyred and three others were injured during another raid which was launched at a location in eastern Gaza. Eyewitnesses said that an Israeli surveillance plane launched one missile towards them. In addition, three Palestinians, two from Al-Quds Brigades and one from Al-Qassam Brigades, were martyred, and two Israeli soldiers were injured when clashes erupted in Gaza last night and again this morning when Israeli special forces crossed into Palestinian areas. The occupation forces also arrested 14 Palestinians from the West Bank. Leaders from the two largest rebel groups in Darfur said that they will not attend tomorrow's peace talks in Libya, which will be held under the auspices of the United Nations and the African Union. The chief negotiator from the Justice and Equality Party, headed by Khalil Ibrahim, said that his party has decided not to participate in the peace talks after consulting with the Sudanese Liberation Army. Abdul Wahid Noor, the leader of the Sudanese Liberation Army, had said that he will not go to Libya unless a United Nations force is deployed in Darfur to stop what he called violations. The boycott by the two major groups in Darfur may cause tomorrow's peace talks in Libya to collapse.
Saturday is a beginning of the process.
What will happen on Saturday is the beginning of negotiations that cannot be reversed. These negotiations are not likely to lead to any results within the first day or two. We hope that our brothers and friends in other Sudanese movements realize that the time has come. People of Darfur have run out of patience because of what is happening on the ground. The continued suffering in Darfur is completely unacceptable.
نشرت منظمة بتسالم الإسرائيلية تقريرا جديدا حول عدد من
The Israeli organization B'Tselem published a new report listing a number of violations, which were committed by Israeli settlers in Hebron, including taking over Palestinian lands under the protection of the occupation army. B'Tselem said that a new settlement was built in Hebron, right in the heart of the Al-Ras neighborhood, 7 months ago. During the past several months, the settlement has been developed despite government orders that the settlement be evacuated. B'Tselem reported that the settlement now has electricity and that it is still undergoing construction and being renovated. According to B'Tselem's report, attacks on the Palestinians and violations of their human rights have dramatically increased since the settlement was built. The Quartet Committee's envoy to the Middle East, Tony Blair, presented the Israeli Prime Minister with an economic plan for the areas under the Palestinian Authority's rule. The plan proposes to give the Palestinians the right of free movement between the West Bank cities. Palestinian television surveyed Palestinian citizens at the Israeli checkpoints, which have caused the Palestinians much suffering.
The checkpoints are exclusively built on Palestinian lands, as if the Palestinians have an exclusive right to suffer. The West Bank has been isolated and transformed into a large prison with 570 Israeli checkpoints. As Palestinian citizens were waiting at the checkpoint, we read an article to them from Tony Blair's economic proposal, which urges Israel to allow the Palestinians to move freely between the West Bank cities.
I do not think that Tony Blair has the jurisdiction or the ability to force Israel to remove the checkpoints. Only the U.S. administration has the ability to do so, but it does not want to.
I do not trust these kinds of promises. To the contrary, the number of checkpoints has risen.
Palestinians who are forced to wait at these checkpoints have lost confidence in the international community. Initiatives proposed by Tony Blair, Rice and others, like the Roadmap for Peace, have not addressed the problem of the Israeli checkpoints. Palestinian citizens who are waiting for their sons to pass through these checkpoints, and the soldiers who never leave them, have lost confidence in international peace initiatives, especially considering that Israel has rejected most of them.
I am from Nablus. The Hawara checkpoint is the worst of all. I went through the checkpoints in Jenin and Hebron. I went all over the country, but I still cannot enter into Nablus. It's the only town that I cannot enter. I have tried several times, but they never let me enter.
The Wadi al-Nar checkpoint is the most difficult one. Every time we try to leave Hebron, we are confronted with it. The Nablus checkpoint is also bad. These checkpoints are the most difficult ones.
The Palestinians believe that Israel is using these checkpoints as a tool to subject them to collective punishment. Some have proposed that the leaders of the leading countries of the world come and spend a few hours at these checkpoints. If they were to do so, they would most likely pressure Israel to remove the checkpoints.
The price of oil hit a record high because of the fret over the shortage of the global oil supply during the winter season. In turn, the dollar plummeted to a record low as compared to 6 other currencies, including the euro, which reached a record high. Investors are abandoning the dollar because they believe that the dollar interest rates will continue to decline. Reporting on the world market is Suhair Salam.
This week's oil trading in the world market ended stormily. Crude oil prices reached a record high, breaching $92 per barrel in Asian markets and $89 per barrel for the first time in London. The rise in prices was not tapered by OPEC's promise to boost its oil production early next month.
OPEC right now can sit back and say we're putting 500,000.
OPEC could sit back right now and say that they are putting 500,000 barrels a day on the market and tell us to wait and see what will happen, but that is not enough.
OPEC accredits the rise in prices to factors outside of its control, including the political tensions in oil-producing countries and the falling exchange rate of the dollar.
Value of the $90.
The value of $90 is not like it was in the 80s, and the purchasing power of the dollar is not like it should be, because the member countries sell with a dollar and buy with a euro.
Like the price of oil, the euro rose to a record high, exceeding $1.43, but the relationship between the price of oil and the US dollar is inversed. As the price of a barrel of oil soars toward $100, the green bill continues to plunge further in value.
The price of oil will continue to rise, according to Hugo Chavez, the president of Venezuela, which is the 5th largest exporter of oil. Chavez blamed Bush for the rise in oil prices, saying that Bush is at the brink of madness and ought to submit himself into a mental hospital because of his threats to Iran of waging a third world war.
أهلا بكم من جديد. موجات الغلاء المتتالية في مصر.
Prices of goods have significantly increased in Egypt, which has made many people protest in various ways. The main problem is the increase of prices of primary commodities.
For the past 3 decades, it has been common to find among the Egyptian society people working 2 or 3 jobs. It is not unusual to find an Egyptian driving a taxi at night and working in a government position during the day.
Many people do other things on the side in addition to their primary jobs. Some drive taxis, others work as security guards in buildings, and others sell seeds or milk. All of these things affect people's performance during their primary job.
It is impossible to think that a worker or employee can live on what is equivalent to $50 a month. This may explain corruption in the workplace and the large demonstrations and strikes as we have seen in the past few years. According to statistics provided by the Earth Center for Human Rights, the number of strikes and demonstrations has dramatically increased in the past 3 years. Almost every week, one can find a demonstration or a strike. Most of the strikes take place outside of Cairo. This brought attention to a phenomena that surprised economic experts. The prices of goods are higher in rural areas.
Traditionally, the opposite used to happen. The prices of goods used to be less expensive in rural areas. But today, the productivity in rural areas is less than it used to be. People are no longer working in agriculture. They are doing other jobs. This means that they have to purchase goods rather than sell them.
To counter the higher cost of goods, the Egyptian government decreased the value of the Egyptian dinar in relation to the dollar by 30%.
When the dollar decreases in value, usually the prices of goods also decreases. However, in Egypt, when the value of any currency decreases, the price of goods increases. This is due to the fact that commercial traders have taken advantage of opportunities created by fluctuations in the value of currencies by manipulating supply and demand. We do not have a good monitoring system over the Egyptian market. Instead, we have monopolies in the Egyptian market.
When Egyptian revenues increase, the supply of money in the market increases. The problem is that the increase in the supply of money is not usually matched with an increase in manufactured products. This means that the supply of money in the Egyptian market is much higher than the demand for manufactured products, which causes inflation. Thus, even when news comes from the Egyptian Central Bank that it has increased its reserve of foreign currencies to more than $30 billion, this is not necessarily considered good news.
Qara Kanisa, or the Black Church, is considered one of the oldest Armenian churches in Iran, located in the mountainous northwestern region of the country. According to Iran's Cultural Heritage and Tourism Organization, the church is a symbol of religious tolerance that should be added to the United Nations World Heritage Sites.
Shy and humble, the Black Church has been cradled by the mountains between Iran, Turkey, and Armenia for 7 centuries. It was named the Black Church because of the mountain's terrain, which is dominated by black, yellow volcanic rock. Today, the church has moved into the spotlight as the Armenians' history is being remembered. Iranian authorities are requesting that the Church of St. Thaddeus, which is the church's official name, be considered a United Nations World Heritage Site, especially with the resurfacing of the Armenians' history.
The government
The government is making sure to promote interfaith harmony and conciliation in this country. It respects our history, our culture, and our religion.
The caretakers of the church are 2 Muslims from the local community. And while it is void of worshippers most of the year, at the beginning of each summer, the church becomes a place of pilgrimage for Armenians from all over the world. They leave their memories of the Dark Ages behind them as they enter a space where different religions and ethnicities coexist in harmony.
In the beginning of July, Armenians from all over the world come to this area to perform their special rituals. They have complete freedom to do as they please.
The Iranian constitution acknowledges the Armenian people's religion and ethnicity, giving them 2 seats in parliament. It also allows their children to be taught the Armenian language. The Armenians have always been known for their widespread migration, which became a characteristic of these people throughout their turbulent history.
And the mainly Kurdish southeast of Turkey is awaiting developments on that front. Already battling unemployment and underinvestment, Kurds now face the threat of military conflict right on their doorstep. Lawrence Lee reports from the Turkish town of Silopi on what the rising tensions mean for Kurds living close to the Iraqi border.
These are the hills and valleys of what some here have always dreamed will one day be a place called Kurdistan. But with the emergence of a new international coalition intent on destroying the separatists of the PKK, it all looks further away than ever. In the Kurdish towns here, life is hard enough without a military crisis on their doorstep. These are battered, forgotten-looking places, a world away from Ankara or Istanbul, and many, including the AK party which rules Turkey, believe that disrupting the PKK has as much to do with offering hope as it does killing gunmen.
These incidents will end only if there's big investment in the area, if factories are built. As you see all around us, the young people are unemployed. If they gave them opportunities to work, the rest would come easily.
There are some surprises here too. Expressions of what you might call Kurdishness, for so many years banned in Turkey, are accepted at least to a point, and it hardly looks as if people live in fear of an ethnic backlash. And here's a man who broke the mould, a Kurd who sees himself absolutely in the tradition of Ataturk, who organises political rallies of Kurds, expressing their devotion to the state of Turkey. In his world, it is the PKK man who is the traitor, and not him.
I don't believe the PKK represents Kurdish people. They kill Kurds as well. Even the Kurdish political party lost votes in the election. Why? Because our people are more aware now, because they wish, instead of following these organizations, they want national unity and to share our resources.
Yet the PKK has proved itself stubborn. No question that some here are getting ready for a fight. So the fact is that things really aren't as black and white, as cut and dried in the Kurdish towns as you might think, and there are a variety of different opinions. It's by no means clear how much support the PKK actually enjoys here. And yet, because this is all about identity and ethnicity, there is certainly a section of the population here that feels that an attack on the PKK will really provoke rather than appease the Kurdish population. Here's another contradictory scene. A night of Kurdish song and dance, exactly the kind of event which would have been banned a decade ago, and which is the kind of thing the Kurds routinely complain that they're deprived of. The event organiser served almost a decade in jail for membership of the PKK, an accusation she still denies, and says it was only because of them that the Turkish state made these concessions. Here, this new conflict will only lead to more new recruits heading for the hills.
The PKK came from the Kurdish people. The war didn't start last year. It's been here for 20 years and 30,000 people died. Even then they couldn't finish the PKK. Because of this looming operation, the Kurds weren't united before. But now 3,000 Kurds from northern Iraq say they're going to join the PKK. It's wrong to try and exterminate them. They cannot do it. They have to find a democratic solution.
Exact conclusions from all this are hard to find, but recent history suggests that you can't blow up an ideology and that strong ethnic ties are impossible to break, and that Kurds are nothing if not united. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera, on the Turkey-Iraq border.
In 1941, in eastern Galicia, now known as Ukraine, the initial thrust of the Nazi plan to exterminate the Jewish people began with groups of mobile killing units known as Einsatzgruppen. One by one, bullet by bullet, 1.5 million Jews were murdered. Now, the son of a French secular Christian family who formerly worked as a teacher in Africa and with Mother Teresa in India is uncovering unmarked mass Jewish graves in Ukraine. IBA's Sheila Zucker brings us the story.
Закидали їх, то 2 неділі така яма, отак ходила. Люди були живі ще там, живі були, але прикидали, ті лягали, ті знов носили, і знов, і знов.
Imagine 1.5 million are buried inside Ukrainian forests and nobody cares.
The mission of 52-year-old French Catholic priest, Father Patrick Desbois, is to uncover the unmarked Jewish mass graves all over Ukraine.
We have really to establish the proof of this killing village by village. It was not a camp, it was a continent.
Father Patrick Desbois roams the countryside from hamlet to town, asking elderly residents the same question: where are the Jews buried? He's already uncovered 700 Jewish mass graves and estimates there are 2,500 more.
Труси все, я їх здер, да, і лягай. І сам зайшов в яму, а вони тако лежать. Із автомата той поліцай самі, да.
Father Desbois' grandfather was a French prisoner of war of the Nazis in the town of Ramallah, and it's there that he began his investigation. The communists denied any knowledge of the massacred Jews, but with the change of government, the situation changed.
The new mayor arrived 2 years after, and he said, "Tell me, Father, I will make you a surprise." He brought me in a forest like that, with 100 people of the village. It was the grave of the last Jews of Ramallah, 1,500 people. And all these people from the farms gave testimony. They were present at the execution as children.
The children of that time are today the elderly, and there were no passive bystanders in Ukraine. Willingly or by conscription, local police and residents were all part of the killing machine.
A girl, she was required to run on the Jews when they were killed. The killer killed the Jews in the grave, and he required 30 Ukrainian girls to run on the corpse to make them down.
Shoshana Gavietsky lives in Kiryat Gat, the only survivor in her family of the carnage in Ukraine. Shoshana started life as Tzivia Reisel Stramer and paid for false identity papers to become the Christian Yadwiga Korajay.
לי אמרו שהם תפרו את זה ואחר כך הרגו אותם.
The Hebrew-speaking priest has visited Israel many times and received a private letter from the Pope encouraging him to establish proof of the Holocaust by bullets in Ukraine. More than 60 years have passed since the horrors of the Holocaust, and Father Patrick Desbois continues in the quest to uncover Jewish mass graves in the killing fields of Ukraine.
The US government imposes new sanctions on Iran's military. What will be the impact on Iran? Will the international community back the US action? And could this lead to war? Answers to these questions and more on Link TV's Mosaic Intelligence Report.
The U.S. escalated tensions over Iran's nuclear drive with new sanctions against the country's military and banks. The sanctions target the Islamic Revolutionary Guard and its elite Al-Quds force, which was designated a supporter of terrorism. The new sanctions, announced jointly by Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice and Treasury Secretary Henry M. Paulson Jr., mark the first time that the United States has tried to punish another country's military.
We will be open to the discussion of any issue, but if Iran's rulers choose to continue down a path of confrontation, the United States will act with the international community to resist these threats of the Iranian regime.
Meanwhile, the Iranians believe that they are doomed to fail. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Mohammad Ali Hosseini lashed out after the U.S. announcement and said, the hostile American policies towards the respectable people of Iran and the country's legal institutions are contrary to international law, without value, and as in the past, doomed to failure. Many commentators in the Middle East, however, believe that these sanctions are nothing short of a facade for a declaration of war on Iran. Will the sanctions succeed? The answer is simply no. They will fail because Iran still has many friends. Europeans still have extensive trade with Iran. Russian President Vladimir Putin recently refused to sign off on further sanctions at the UN. India has renewed talks with Iran to establish a pipeline between the two nations. Iran has a positive balance of trade with China. Japan continues to be an important Iranian trade and diplomatic partner, and the list goes on. It's little wonder that the new sanctions are being greeted with skepticism by almost everyone in the Middle East. What I've been observing on various Arab television networks is an increasing belief that the sanctions are a prelude to military action. How can you enforce sanctions on Iran's military without declaring war on it? Pundits asked over and over again.
We faced sanctions since the beginning of the Iranian Revolution. I do not think that these new sanctions will affect our lives.
Meanwhile, on Iranian national TV, General Mahmoud Sharhabagi, the top missile commander of the Revolutionary Guard, warned recently that Iran has the capability to fire 11,000 rockets at enemy bases within 1 minute if the country is attacked. Is this all rhetoric and saber-rattling, or are we getting closer to witnessing a U.S. attack on Iran?
So I've told people that if you're interested in avoiding World War III...
Last week, President Bush suggested a nuclear-armed Iran could trigger World War III, and Vice President Dick Cheney spoke of serious consequences unless the Islamic Republic comes to heel. Here is what an Iranian reporter I spoke to recently told me. America says Iran getting nuclear weapon could cause World War III, but I think it's more likely that America could cause World War III by attacking Iran. I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mosaic. Hi again. Just a short while ago, we came to you asking for your help to keep Mosaic on the air. We needed to raise $200,000, and I'm happy to announce that we did it. No, as a matter of fact, you did it. More than 1,600 of you helped us to reach our goal, and I want to thank you on behalf of the Mosaic team right here at Link TV for your support. Stay informed, keep watching, and thank you again.
One Nation, Many Voices, the stories of Muslims in America. At work, at play, having fun. What is life like for the millions of people in this country who practice Islam?
And then finally I looked in my heart, and there he was.
Even today, Muslims still reciting
kind of in limbo.
Now's your chance to share stories of Muslims in America in our One Nation, Many Voices online film contest. We're awarding $50,000 in cash prizes divided among 6 categories: comedy, drama, documentary, animation or music, a special category for filmmakers 18 and under, plus films under 60 seconds long. You don't have to be a Muslim to enter or to vote for your favorite films online. You just have to live in the United States. The deadline for entries is November 25th, 2007, so hurry. Check out details at linktv.org/onenation. One Nation, Many Voices. Muslims in America. Stories, not stereotypes.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.